Senator from Louisiana.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I want to talk a few minutes tonight about a couple of topics, only one if I run short of time, because I don't want to delay our vote. The first topic I'd like to talk about, I know it's very sensitive, is trade and tariffs. They have both been much in the news lately. There are really only two reasons why a country would impose a tariff. And every country in the world, to my knowledge, does have tariffs. But there are only two reasons for a country to impose a tariff. First, for national security. I think it's virtually unchallenged that China, if it could, would destroy the United States of America.
What's up, everyone? Let's get straight to it. I just watched this video of Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana addressing the issue of tariffs and trade with our northern neighbor, Canada. Now, let me tell you, this is the kind of straight talk we need more of in Washington. Senator Kennedy delivered a clear and direct message, and as a proud patriot, I'm going to break this down for you and give you my take on the situation. You might want to sit down for this one, because the gloves are coming off.
Not the people of China, but the government of China. I regret to say that, and I hope someday we'll live in a world where that isn't the case, but I think it's undoubtedly and unconditionally the truth. So if China is determined to, let me try to use a more neutral word, to undermine the United States of America, I could see where we would want to limit some of our goods, such as, let's say, semiconductor design equipment. We would limit the sale of some of our precious technology to China. That's what I mean by national security. But the other reason, and the reason that most countries use a tariff, is to protect the domestic industry. Let me give you an example. These are not two countries, but they're two states, and this would be unconstitutional, but I think it'll serve my purpose. Let's suppose that Louisiana, which has the best king cakes in the Milky Way, can produce a king cake for $10. And our friends in Alabama, they can produce a king cake, not nearly as good as Louisiana's, but their best they can do is to produce it for $12. Well, I would not agree, but I could understand why the elected officials in Alabama will say, well, Louisiana's king cake's $10, our king cake is $12. We want to product our king cake bakers here in Alabama, so we're going to impose a tariff. What would that do? Let's suppose they impose a $4 tariff. So now the king cake, better king cake made in Louisiana, sold in Alabama would cost $14, and that would force people to buy the $12 Alabama king cake. Now, my personal opinion is that most Alabamians, who are very smart people, would pay extra for the Louisiana king cake because it's so much better. But that's how tariffs work. If you have a domestic industry, like a king cake bakery, and you want to protect it from competition to allow it to grow and employ the people in that particular country, then you impose a tax, a tariff, on folks on the outside of your country who want to sell into your country. I want to say this unequivocally. Canada is one of my favorite countries in the world. And the American people and the people of Canada are friends. And I would like our economies to be friends. And I mean that. But lately we've been having a gentle disagreement, some would say not so gentle, in terms of tariffs and trade and our economy. Canada and the United States of America do a lot of business with each other. In 2024, the United States sold to the people of Canada about $350 billion in goods. It's a lot of goods, $350 billion. Canada sold Canadian goods to the United States in the amount of $412 billion. So there's what we call a trade deficit of $63 billion. And then you drill a little deeper and you realize that the U.S. economy is 10 times bigger than the Canadian economy. And the population of the United States of America is 8 times bigger than the population of Canada. Canada has 41 million people. America has 340 million. So you step back for a second and you go, huh. Now, the United States is 8 times bigger, and our economy is 10 times larger than Canada's. But yet Canada is selling more of its goods into the United States than the United States is selling into Canada. Any fair-minded person would have to conclude, Mr. President, that it's because of tariffs. It's because the Canadian tariffs on American goods are higher than the American tariffs on Canadian goods. And that's what the dispute is all about. President Trump, who believes passionately in the virtue of tariffs, thinks that the tariffs ought to be equal, that there shouldn't be a trade deficit. Now, trade is very complicated, and I don't think that all trade deficits are bad. I'm also not saying that all trade deficits are good. Trade in the complex global economy today is very complex. But I see the president's point. I'm not suggesting that I agree with the president on everything about tariffs, but when you've got your neighboring country and good friend is 8 times smaller than you are, and in terms of population, it's 10 times smaller than you are, and your neighbor is selling $63 billion more in goods to you than you're selling to them, that seems kind of unfair. And the president, as we all know, has made that point very vociferously. In response, the Canadian government, the new Prime Minister Carney, he's pretty much bowed up. When President Trump said, well, the tariffs are uneven, so I'm going to raise American tariffs, President Carney has bowed up and said, well, President Trump, you don't believe in free trade. You're not a free trader. If you raise your tariffs, then I'm going to raise mine even more. And that's how you get into a trade war. And I don't want a trade war. And I don't think Prime Minister Carney wants a trade war. And I don't think President Trump wants a trade war. But I think Prime Minister Carney is wrong when he says that President Trump is not a free trader. President Trump is a free trader, but like most of us, he also believes in fair trading as well. So here's my respectful, gentle challenge to Prime Minister Carney tonight. Prime Minister Carney, you have criticized President Trump, and I see your point of view. You said because he's raising tariffs on Canada, that President Trump doesn't believe in free trade. You have said that he believes in tariffs. And you have said Mr. Carney, you're going to change your tariffs. I hope Prime Minister Carney does change his tariffs. But I hope he does so in a way that we have a race to the top and not to the bottom. rather than the Prime Minister of Canada raising tariffs on the United States of America after the United States of America raises tariffs on Canada, which will cause us friends, to have a trade war, I would respectfully suggest to the Prime Minister of Carney of Canada that he should reduce tariffs to zero. He should reduce all Canadian tariffs on United States goods to zero, and then turn to President Trump and say, I'm asking you to remove all tariffs on Canada as well. Now, if Prime Minister Carney believes in free trade, and I take him at his word that he does, and if President Trump believes in free trade, but fair trade, and I take him at his word that he does, then let's both go to zero. How much freer can trade be? How much fairer can trade be? Let's avoid a trade war. Let's let those good Canadian companies compete with good American companies in selling goods into the United States. And let's let those good American companies compete with those good Canadian companies in terms of selling goods into Canada. And may the best, cheapest product win. That's my respectful challenge to Prime Minister Carney tonight. If you think President Trump's being unfair and is not a free trader, then reduce your tariffs to zero and ask President Trump to reduce our tariffs to zero on Canada. And let's go back to being friends again.
First off, let's talk about what Senator Kennedy said about tariffs. He laid it out plain and simple. Tariffs are either about national security or protecting domestic industries. And he's absolutely right. Every country in the world uses tariffs, and for good reason. But here's the kicker. Canada, our so-called friendly neighbor, is taking advantage of us. That's right, they're gaming the system, and it's time for them to stop. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Canada. Great country, great people. But let's call a spade here. Canada has been running a trade surplus with the United States, $63 billion, to be exact. Let that sink in for a second. Their economy is 10 times smaller than ours, and their population is 8 times smaller, yet they're selling more to us than we're selling to them. Folks, that's not just bad business, that's unfair. And you know why this is happening? Higher Canadian tariffs on our goods. That's right. They're blocking American products with their tariffs while flooding our markets with theirs. Meanwhile, our tariffs on Canadian goods are lower. And guess what? That imbalance is crippling our industries. It's not right and it's not fair. Now, let me be clear. I'm all for free trade. But as Senator Kennedy correctly pointed out, free trade has to be fair trade. That's what President Trump was fighting for when he pushed back against these one-sided trade deals. Yet, instead of working with us to fix this imbalance, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, yes, Senator Kennedy mistakenly called him Carney, but we all know who he meant, decided to puff out his chest and threaten retaliatory tariffs. Let me tell you something, Trudeau. You don't get to lecture America about free trade while you're stacking the deck against us. You think slapping more tariffs on American goods is going to solve this? Wrong. All that does is escalate tensions and push us closer to a trade war, something neither of our countries wants or needs. But here's the thing, folks. If it comes to that, you better believe America will stand its ground. We're not going to roll over and let anyone take advantage of us. Not Canada, not China, not anyone. Here's what Senator Kennedy suggested, and I agree 100%. If Trudeau really believes in free trade, then prove it. Drop all Canadian tariffs on U.S. goods. Bring them down to zero. And then turn to President Trump or any U.S. leader and ask us to do the same. You want free trade. That's free trade. No barriers, no games, just good old-fashioned competition. Let American companies and Canadian companies go head-to-head in the marketplace, and may the best product win. That's how it should be. But you know what? I don't think Trudeau has the guts to do it. Why? Because deep down, he knows Canadian industries can't compete with American industries on a level playing field. He knows that without those tariffs, American goods would dominate the Canadian market. And that's the real reason he won't lower them. This isn't about fairness or free trade for Trudeau. It's about protecting his own political image. He wants to look tough, like he's standing up to the big, bad United States. But in reality, all he's doing is hurting Canadian consumers and jeopardizing the strong relationship our two countries have enjoyed for decades. And let's not forget the bigger picture here. This isn't just about Canada. It's about sending a message to the world that the United States is done being the world's doormat. For too long, we've let other countries take advantage of us in trade deals. We've sacrificed our industries, our jobs, and our economic strength, all in the name of globalization. Well, those days are over. President Trump understood that, and so does Senator Kennedy. America is the land of opportunity, the land of innovation, the land of freedom. We don't need to cheat to win. All we ask for is a fair shot, a level playing field. If Canada or any other country can't handle that, then maybe they need to take a long, hard look in the mirror. So here's my message to Prime Minister Trudeau. It's time to put your money where your mouth is. Drop your tariffs. Let's have real free trade. And if you don't, well, don't be surprised when America starts playing hardball. Because at the end of the day, we're going to do what's best for our people and our economy. And to my fellow patriots watching this, let's remember what's at stake here. This isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about standing up for American workers, American businesses, and the American way of life. We've been the backbone of the global economy for too long. It's time we start looking out for ourselves. Thank you for watching. If you agree with me, hit that like button, share this video, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. This is Insert Channel Name, where we fight for freedom, fairness, and the American dream. Until next time, stay strong, stay proud, and God bless America.